say hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to explore communication and behaviours in academic settings. Everyone is different, and we know that, and that's okay. But how can knowing and identifying the way you communicate help you in intercultural situations? Philosophers from different traditions over time have claimed that knowing yourself is essential. We'll consider knowing yourself as a kind of secret power, which, although it won't solve everything, can help a lot in our journey to engage in intercultural communication. Knowing oneself isn't easy. It involves shifting perspectives and trying to see oneself from someone else's point of view. This is called decentering. So, as we saw in the previous videos, we've all been socialized and educated within different groups. So, we have expectations about what happens in interaction, or in any other communication context for that matter. How we perceive the world and how we behave is influenced by our personalities, as well as the social, political, and national structures we've encountered and we've had experiences with. We often internalize these learned behaviours, and they give us a sense of belonging and become a part of who we are. This means that what we perceive as strange ways of doing things can make us feel uncomfortable, and that we often consider our way of doing things as the norm. Sounds obvious, doesn't it? But viewing ourselves as normal can lead to labelling others as strange, different, or ambiguous. We might unconsciously look down on them and their unfamiliar ways to make ourselves feel more comfortable, that we are the normal ones. We all do this. We tend to put ourselves or our worldview at the centre of the map. Think about words like egocentric, ethnocentric, or Eurocentric, or even heteronormative. This is where we need to decenter, discover that normal is subjective and see ourselves in a different way. To start us off, here's a question. What could be considered normal in an academic context with other students or teachers? Let's listen to some students' answers.
When I see Natalie turn up late for class in her roller skates, I find it a bit weird. It's a bit disrespectful for the teacher, really. If I came with my roller skates, I'd at least arrive early to be able to take them off. I mean, that's my way of doing things, but apparently it's not theirs. It's exotic or different for me, but with my briefcase, I'm probably exotic or different for them too. And that's grand.
During my first philosophy lecture, a guy behind me tapped me on the shoulder and handed me a note. I blushed so hard, I thought it was a love note or something. But then he whispered, "Can you pass my question down to the front to the teacher, please?" He could see I was confused. I passed it on anyway, but it must have got lost on the way, because the question was never asked. After class, he explained that in his home university, this was how students asked questions to the professor. And that got me thinking. Putting up your hand is not the only way of communicating with a teacher, even if it's the way I'm most familiar with. I actually like this other system of notes because I always feel nervous putting my hand up. I'll have to find out where his home university is.
So when I was taking part in my online exchange, I had to give a presentation. I couldn't believe how much the other students were asking questions afterwards, and I was sure I must have done a terrible job explaining. I mean, everyone knows that if you give a clear presentation, no one needs to ask you a question, right? But then the teacher's feedback was so great, I asked about this question thing. He explained that asking questions after a presentation showed that people liked it, wanted to know more, were interested. What a surprise.
Let's reflect on some of these different behaviours. What's normal or familiar for you? Don't hesitate to pause the video and take a few notes about what you would perceive as ambiguous, unfamiliar, or even strange. Avoiding direct eye contact when speaking to a professor. Listening politely and quietly to show respect for your partner's views. Being asked to give your pronouns when you introduce yourself. Jumping in, interrupting, to show you are interested. Holding the floor by taking the time to explain your point in detail with examples and arguments. being tentative and careful when you express your point of view, not being assertive. Remember that what seems obvious to you might be strange to another student or in another educational context. To help us make sense of these strange situations, we can borrow some tools from anthropology. Next time you're in class, you could use participant observation to try and understand behaviour more objectively. Take detailed notes of what everyone is doing and how they're behaving. Best do this in a lecture you don't need to attend. That way, you'll see behaviour in another way. A second technique involves the concept of surprise, which should be a cue for you to ask questions, like Lee did, to find out what's happening. You know, when something seems weird or shocking or just unusual for you. We'll look at more techniques in the next video.